My child, God says today is January 19th, and this date is not appearing in your life by coincidence but by divine alignment, because there are moments written into your journey long before you become aware of them, moments when the unseen begins to move before the seen can catch up, and this is one of those moments, a moment when everything that felt delayed, blocked, confusing, or unfair begins to shift its direction quietly yet permanently, and you are being asked to listen carefully, not because something bad will happen if you don't, but because something good is finally ready to unfold if you do, and God wants you to understand that change does not always arrive with instant relief or loud celebration. Sometimes it arrives as a message that makes your heart pause, your breath slow, and your mind question why this feels so personal, and that feeling is your spirit recognizing truth before logic catches up. Because from today onward the internal foundation of your life is being reset, and when foundations change, the structure above them must eventually change as well, even if the walls still look the same for a while, and you may wonder why this shift did not happen earlier when you needed it most, why you had to endure seasons of uncertainty, loneliness, emotional exhaustion, and unanswered prayers, but God says those seasons were not delays, they were preparation, because what is coming now requires strength, maturity, discernment, and clarity that you did not yet possess back then, and if the doors had opened earlier you might have walked into them carrying wounds that would have shaped the outcome negatively, and God protected you by slowing the process until you were ready to carry the responsibility of change without losing yourself in it, and now that readiness has arrived, not because everything is perfect but because you have learned how to stand even when things are not, and from today you will begin noticing subtle shifts that may not look dramatic at first but will feel deeply significant, the way you respond instead of react, the way certain worries no longer dominate your thoughts, the way clarity replaces confusion in moments that once overwhelmed you, and these are signs that divine guidance is actively working within you, not forcing outcomes but adjusting alignment, and God says do not rush this phase, because alignment is more powerful than speed, and when alignment is present even slow movement creates lasting results, and you are also being warned gently not to ignore this moment by slipping back into old patterns of doubt, overthinking, or emotional self-protection, because those patterns were necessary for survival once but are no longer required for growth now, and holding on to them will only delay what is already in motion. And God says from today onward you must become more intentional about what you allow into your mind and heart, because your sensitivity is increasing, not as a weakness but as a compass, helping you sense what aligns and what drains you, and you may notice that certain conversations feel heavier than before, certain environments feel uncomfortable, certain relationships feel misaligned, and this is not because something is wrong with you, it is because you are outgrowing spaces that no longer reflect who you are becoming. And growth often feels like discomfort before it feels like freedom, and God wants you to trust this process even when it feels unfamiliar, because familiarity is not the same as safety, and staying the same is not the same as being stable, and from today onward you are being guided toward a version of stability that is rooted in truth rather than habit, peace rather than avoidance, and faith rather than fear, and you will also notice that opportunities may begin to appear in unexpected forms. Not always as clear answers but as invitations to choose differently, to speak honestly, to set boundaries, to prioritize your inner well-being without guilt, and these choices will shape the next chapter of your life more than any external event ever could. And God says, do not underestimate the power of small consistent changes made with awareness, because mountains move not through force but through persistence, and you are being supported in ways you cannot yet see. Conversations are being softened behind the scenes. Outcomes are being redirected, delays are being removed at the right time, and protection is being placed around you not to isolate you but to keep you aligned, and Archangel Michael's presence in this message represents courage, clarity, and protection, reminding you that you are not meant to walk this next phase feeling afraid or alone, but grounded, alert, and spiritually supported. And if moments of doubt arise, remember that doubt often appears right before breakthrough as a final test of trust. And you are not being asked to have blind faith, you are being asked to have informed faith, faith built on everything you have already survived and learned. And one day you will look back at January 19th and realize that nothing dramatic happened that day on the surface, yet everything began to change underneath. Relationships began shifting, opportunities began aligning, inner strength began stabilizing, and clarity began replacing confusion. And that is how real transformation works. Quietly, steadily, irreversibly, and God says as long as you stay attentive, humble, and open-hearted, this change will not overwhelm you but will carry you forward into a chapter that feels lighter, clearer, and more truthful than the last. You may begin to feel a strange mix of calm and restlessness at the same time, as if something within you knows that life cannot go back to the way it was, even if part of you still feels attached to the familiar. And this inner tension is not confusion but growth, because growth always stretches identity before it stabilizes. And during this phase you may notice, before release, and as these memories surface you may feel vulnerable, but vulnerability here is strength, because it means you are no longer suppressing parts of yourself to survive, you are allowing them to integrate so you can move forward whole. And this is also why you are being reminded not to ignore this message, because ignoring it would mean ignoring your own intuition at a moment when it is finally speaking clearly. And intuition ignored turns into regret, but intuition honored turns into guidance. And as you continue listening you will begin to notice that life starts responding differently to you, obstacles becoming less personal, delays feeling purposeful rather than punishing, and challenges arriving with lessons instead of chaos. And this shift will not remove effort from your life but will remove unnecessary struggle, and that is the difference between pushing and aligning. And as alignment strengthens you will start trusting timing again, not because everything happens instantly but because you can feel that things are no longer stuck, they are moving, and movement brings hope, even before results appear. And this phase is teaching you patience without passivity, action without force, and faith without blindness. And these qualities will serve you long after this chapter ends, because they are foundations, not emotions. And one day soon you will realize that you no longer seek constant signs or reassurance, because your inner stability has grown. strong enough to recognize direction without noise, and that is when you will understand that this change was never just about circumstances, it was about becoming someone who can handle better circumstances without losing themselves. Because certain doors are closing not to punish you but to redirect you, and this redirection may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you were emotionally invested in outcomes that no longer align with who you are becoming, yet this discomfort is a signal that growth is active, not stagnant, and you are being guided to trust what is unfolding even when it challenges your expectations. Because expectations are often built from past experiences, while guidance is built from future alignment, and during this time you may notice that your reactions are slowing down, you are pausing more before responding, reflecting more before deciding, and this pause is powerful, because in the pause lies choice, and choice is what separates conscious change from repeated cycles, and you may also feel moments of clarity followed by moments of doubt. And this back and forth is natural, because when a new path opens the mind tries to pull you back toward what it already knows, but familiarity is not always safety, sometimes it is simply habit, and you are learning now to differentiate between the two, and as you do this you may find that your intuition feels sharper, quieter, but more certain, guiding you away from situations that drain you and toward ones that challenge you to grow, and this guidance will not always come with comfort, but it will come with peace afterward. And that peace is how you will recognize alignment, and during this phase you may also feel a stronger desire to protect your energy, to be selective about where you invest your time, your emotions, and your attention, and this selectiveness is not selfishness, it is stewardship, because you are learning that not everyone deserves access to your inner world, and not every battle requires your participation, and as you step into this awareness you may feel lighter yet more grounded, less reactive yet more decisive, and these shifts will begin reflecting externally, people responding to you differently. Situations resolving faster, opportunities appearing that require courage rather than desperation, and this is how momentum builds, quietly but steadily, and there may still be moments when fear tries to whisper old narratives, telling you to prepare for disappointment, to stay guarded, to not hope too much, but those whispers are echoes of past survival, not predictions of your future, and each time you choose not to listen to them you weaken their hold, and strengthen trust instead, and trust here does not mean blind belief, it means allowing yourself to move forward without demanding guarantees, knowing that clarity often arrives after commitment, not before, and as this lesson settles in you will begin to notice that your life no longer feels like something happening to you, but something you are participating in consciously, and that shift alone changes everything. Because when you participate intentionally you stop feeling powerless, and power does not mean control, it means responsibility for how you respond, and this responsibility will guide you toward choices that feel aligned even when they are difficult, and over time you will see that these aligned choices compound, creating stability where chaos once lived, direction where confusion once dominated, and hope where exhaustion once lingered, and this is the deeper purpose of this message, not just to announce change, but to prepare you to sustain it, because sustainable change requires awareness, patience, and trust, and you are developing all three now, step by step, moment by moment, even when it doesn't feel dramatic, and one day you will realize that this phase taught you how to listen to yourself again, how to trust quiet guidance over loud fear, and how to move forward without needing to look back for validation. As this transformation moves forward, you may begin to notice that life is gently asking more honesty from you than ever before, honesty not just with others but with yourself, because the changes unfolding now cannot coexist with self-deception, and this is why certain illusions are falling away, illusions about people, situations, even about who you thought you had to be in order to survive. And this realization may feel heavy at first, because letting go of illusions often feels like loss. Even when what you are losing was never truly aligned with you, yet this loss is necessary, because clarity requires space, and space requires release, and you are being guided to release expectations that were built from fear rather than truth, expectations that kept you waiting, compromising, or shrinking, and as these expectations dissolve you may feel exposed, unsure of what comes next. But this uncertainty is not emptiness, it is openness, and openness is where new direction enters, and during this phase you may also experience shifts in your relationships, some connections deepening unexpectedly, others growing distant without conflict, and this is not abandonment, it is alignment correcting itself, because people either grow with you or fall away when growth requires honesty they are not ready for, and you are being asked not to chase what is leaving, because chasing drains energy that is meant to build what is arriving. And this is where trust becomes essential, trusting that what remains will be more truthful, more supportive, and more sustainable than what departs, and as this trust strengthens you may feel less urgency to explain yourself, to justify your choices, or to seek approval, and this calm confidence is not arrogance, it is self-respect finally stabilizing. And self-respect changes how life responds to you, because when you value your time, your energy, and your boundaries, the world begins to meet you at that level, and you may also notice practical changes beginning to take shape, small improvements in routine, clearer thinking around decisions, renewed motivation toward goals you had quietly set aside, and these shifts are signs that your inner alignment is translating into outer movement. Because alignment always precedes momentum, and momentum always precedes results, and even if results are not fully visible yet, the foundation is being laid carefully, intentionally, and this foundation will not collapse under pressure the way past efforts may have, because it is built from awareness rather than urgency, and during this phase you may still face moments of doubt, but these doubts will feel different, less overwhelming, less convincing, because you are learning how to observe thoughts without obeying them, and this skill alone changes the trajectory of a life. Because thoughts no longer dictate reality when awareness is present, and as awareness deepens you will begin responding to challenges with curiosity instead of fear, asking, "What is this teaching me?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" And this shift transforms obstacles into guidance, delays into preparation, and mistakes into information rather than identity. And you will also begin noticing that peace is becoming less dependent on external validation, less tied to outcomes, and more rooted in your ability to stay present and grounded, and this peace is not passive, it is active. It allows you to act decisively without panic, to wait patiently without despair, and to move forward without needing constant reassurance, and this is the state you were being prepared for, because lasting change requires inner stability before outer expansion, and you are entering that stability now, even if it feels unfamiliar. And one day soon you will recognize that this phase was not about losing. You may start to realize that the most powerful changes are not happening in dramatic moments but in the quiet decisions you make every day, the decision to respond calmly where you once reacted emotionally, the decision to walk away from confusion instead of trying to fix it, the decision to trust your inner clarity even when others do not yet understand it, and these decisions may feel ordinary, but they are rewriting the direction of your life in ways you cannot fully measure yet, because transformation is cumulative, it builds slowly through consistency, not intensity, and you are learning now that strength does not always look like force. Sometimes it looks like restraint, patience, and the courage to stay aligned when shortcuts appear tempting, and during this phase you may feel tested in subtle ways, opportunities that look attractive but feel misaligned, conversations that invite you back into old patterns, moments where impatience whispers that progress is too slow, and these are not obstacles but checkpoints, moments designed to help you confirm what you truly want versus what you are simply used to choosing, and as you pass these checkpoints with awareness, your confidence will deepen, not the loud kind of confidence that seeks validation, but the quiet kind that knows its direction even in silence. And you may also begin to notice that your emotional landscape is stabilizing. Highs and lows becoming less extreme, clarity returning faster after moments of doubt, and this emotional regulation is not numbness, it is maturity, because you are learning how to feel deeply without being controlled by what you feel. And this balance will serve you in every area of life, from relationships to work to personal growth, and as this balance strengthens, life will start reflecting it back to you, interactions becoming smoother, misunderstandings resolving quicker, opportunities requiring readiness rather than desperation, and even challenges arriving with solutions already embedded within them, and you may not immediately recognize these shifts as blessings because they are subtle, but subtle does not mean small, subtle often means sustainable, and sustainability is what you have been missing in the past, cycles that started with excitement but ended in exhaustion, changes that felt promising but collapsed under pressure, and this time is different, not because circumstances are easier, but because you are steadier, and steadiness changes everything, and you are also being guided to release the need for constant confirmation, to stop asking whether you are on the right path every step of the way, because doubt weakens momentum when it becomes habitual, and trust strengthens it when it becomes practiced, and you are learning to practice trust now, not blindly, but intentionally, trusting the progress you can feel even when results are still forming. And there may be moments when the past tries to pull your attention back, memories resurfacing, old regrets whispering that you wasted time or missed chances, but those memories are not there to shame you, they are there to show you how far you have come, because the version of you who survived those moments did not have the clarity you have now, and blaming your past self only drains energy that is meant to build your future, and as you release that self-judgment you will feel lighter, more present, more capable of enjoying what is unfolding instead of rushing toward what is next, and enjoyment is not distraction, it is integration, because joy integrates growth into the nervous system, making it last, and you are allowed to enjoy this phase even if everything is not perfect yet, because perfection is not required for peace, alignment is, and alignment is growing stronger with every conscious choice you make, and soon you will notice that your life no longer feels like a series of reactions to external pressure, but a sequence of intentional responses guided by clarity. And this is where real power lies, not in control, but in self-trust, and when self-trust stabilizes, fear loses its grip, urgency dissolves, and direction becomes clear without force, and this is the quiet breakthrough of this phase, the moment when you realize that you are no longer waiting for life to change, because life is already responding to the way you have changed. And that realization will carry you forward into the next chapter with calm confidence, steady faith, and a sense of readiness that cannot be shaken easily. But as a steady inner knowing that you are no longer walking blindly, because clarity has started replacing confusion at a level you may not have experienced before, and this clarity will guide you through situations that once felt overwhelming, showing you where to invest your energy and where to step back without guilt. And during this time you may notice that problems no longer trigger the same panic response. Instead you feel more grounded, more capable of handling uncertainty, and this shift is significant, because it means fear is losing its authority over your decisions, and when fear loses authority, freedom begins to take shape, not suddenly, but sustainably, and you are being guided to understand that protection in this phase does not mean the absence of challenges, it means the presence of wisdom while facing them, and wisdom allows you to see beyond immediate reactions, beyond emotional impulses, beyond the urge to rush or force outcomes. And as you practice this wisdom, life will begin meeting you with fewer disruptions and more cooperation, because alignment reduces resistance, and resistance is what once made everything feel harder than it needed to be, and you may also notice that your sense of self is becoming clearer, you are less confused about what you want, less influenced by others' opinions, less tempted to explain yourself unnecessarily. And this self-clarity is not rigidity, it is grounding, because you know where you stand even when circumstances are unstable, and this grounding will become your anchor in moments when life tests your patience again, and tests will come, not as punishment, but as reinforcement.